And then there's the tick bite prevention on the person that we're going to talk about too. So, so thinking about essential oils as an alternative. I mean, these are potent substances. They are organic volatile compounds that are produced by aromatic plants, like peppermint oil, cedar oil. You may have used essential oils before and know about how strong they are, right? So they, in nature, in a good way, they attract pollinators and seed dispersers to the plants, like honeybees and that sort of, bumblebees and that sort of thing. And they also repel and protect the plant from microbes and predators. So the thing is, it's a challenge to evaluate these studies. So there are actually a lot of studies on this topic. And it's just hard to, there's no like standardized method to really evaluate this. And so that in itself is actually being discussed and trying to bring a little bit more of a methodology to it so that hopefully, all the really detailed questions can be answered and something could really be brought from that to create the right application and know how to use these in this way. So I think it's promising. So so far what we have is something called eco-exempt IC2 has been really effective. I mean, the thing is it's short term, but while it's effective, that's pretty great. So this was being carried by like local pest controls. So I've had patients who, instead of the permethrin type pyrethroids being sprayed on the property, they might get eco-exempt IC2 from a pest control company. Some carry it, some don't. Definitely ask if you're interested, and they can get it. So it's an alternative, it's an option. And it suppresses 100% of the black-legged ticks for 2 weeks, right? So versus bifenthrin, it's not as long-lasting. So we definitely need to acknowledge that. So how often do you want to, be applying this stuff? But it can really, it has quite a knockdown effect, as they call it. So that can be very useful. And then it also suppresses just the larvae of the black-legged tick, 63% of them for 5 weeks after the spray. So not the nymphs or the adults, but that's great. And then it suppresses 93% of adults for 14 weeks after the spray. Sorry, I got that backwards there. So, even 14 weeks post-spray, that's pretty amazing. So you've got some of the larvae that are still hanging out, but most of the adults are addressed. So something to consider. This one required an emulsifier to add. So then this Accentria IC3 was created, and that one no longer has that emulsifier that you have to add, but then there's some discussion about it being less effective. So that's a downside. So the thing is, this eco-exempt IC2 is now harder to find, but that's the more effective one. So if you can find it, that's the one I recommend compared to Accentria IC3. And in the meantime, nude ketone overall in the literature looks like the most efficacious essential oil. So the thing with this is it's not out, it's not commercially available yet, and it's actually been several years. And I was hoping, I was writing my book. I mean, that was, the book came out in 2020, so it was much before that I was hearing about nude ketone. I was so excited about it, and it's still not out, but it's apparently being worked on and will be released to the public at some point, I hope soon. So this is a sesquiterpene. It's found in the essential oil of grapefruit and the yellow cedar tree. So 5% nude ketone suppressed 100% of nymphs for 2 days. So that's pretty amazing too. And then up to 65% up to 21 days. So again, like standardization of these studies, like how does it compare to the IC2 and all of that. But Also, we're going to see how this seems to be more effective when we use it as a repellent on our skin, and it's safe for our skin. Carvacrol was also studied in this research study. So that's a phenolic monoterpenoid in essential oil plants like thyme or oregano, black cumin. You'll find that compound, and so it also completely suppressed nymphs of both the Ixodes scapularis, which is black-legged tick, and the Lone Star tick is the other tick they studied, through 2 days, with a significant reduction, and then even 14 days post-application. And then we have another study looking at 2%. Nootkatone suppressed 96.5% of black-legged ticks after 42 days. So that's pretty incredible. And 91.9% of the Lone Star ticks after 35 days. So this is, again, pretty promising for that nootkatone, and just trying to think of, okay, what's the concentration we need? All of that needs to be sorted out. And then there's this other, in the study, they also looked at Carvacrol 2%, and it suppressed 92.3% of black-legged ticks and 92.3% of, 92.9% of Lone Star ticks. And then also as a comparison, they had this different essential oil formula that had rosemary and peppermint and wintergreen, and it suppressed 90% of black-leggeds and 87% of Lone Star ticks. So, there's some great research out there, and I'm hoping it's bringing us closer to having some alternatives to using such toxic substances out in the landscape that affects the environment. So now we will move on to tick bite prevention. And so thinking about on our person, right? We talked about the landscape, so now we're going to talk about, you going out into your yard or into the garden, or just walking across a lawn, or going for a hike or camping or whatnot, what to do. So we have some high risk populations that we'll talk about. And if you're a farmer, it could be your hobby, or it could actually be your living, right? I see a lot of people who work on the electrical lines, and they have high risk for tick bites. If you work in an oil field, a railroad, or if you just love to go hiking and camping, or playing sports outside, horseback riding, and then an occupational hazard that's not outdoors, but as a veterinarian, there's a high risk for getting tick bites because of those animals that you're dealing with and the ticks that they carry. But ultimately, right, just going out, even if it's just a short grass, walking across the lawn to a car or something, if you're in a tick endemic area, you're at risk. So let's think about what we can do to prevent that, prevent those tick bites. So we're going to talk about permethrin, but in the context of treating clothing, which is a lot safer for everybody. So it's pretty incredible the effects that this has. So I highly recommend this. Just treating sneakers and socks decreases the chances of a tick bite by 73 times. So that's incredible. So if you go outside, and again, just use the permethrin on, you can also do clothing or materials, spray your tent if you're going to go out camping, or your bag if it's something you put out in the grass if you're outside, or if you're, if you're a logger and you have a tool belt or something you could spray, that would be great. And so the idea is that if you do it, it lasts 6 weeks. So I put it on my calendar. I get all the sneakers and the shoes out there, boots, spray them down, keep everybody away from it, wear gloves. If you get it on your hands, just wash your hands with soap and water. It's going to be okay, but it is toxic to our skin. So then you let it dry, maybe an hour or two. It's dry. You can put it indoors then. It will still repel ticks, but it's okay for pets, for people. And so this can be incredible. Again, this is one of the top things I recommend, and my patients come back and they say that it just made all the difference for them. The other thing you can do is send your clothes out to a place called Insect Shield, and when they do it, it lasts 70 washes, so a lot longer. They don't do shoes, but if you send out to them, then if you wanted, you could have a whole, an outfit. If you're somebody who's really out there all the time, I would recommend doing, a full outfit, hat, everything. Get that treated and use that. And then, so we have a study from North Carolina that using this factory-based technique, which is a little more effective, these people had a 99% decrease in the rate of tick bites during work hours by wearing these clothes. So that's incredible. Okay, so let's move on to thinking about essential oils, a nice option if we can use it for tick bite prevention. That's not toxic to our skin. So again, we have this issue where there are a lot of studies actually, which is great, but it's hard to compare them regarding the methods used or the concentrations or whatnot, or even the information that they provide about the study. So, we need a little bit more standardization there to understand what works best and how to go forward. But overall, things that they see are that larvae and nymphs are the most susceptible to essential oils opposed to adults, which is kind of interesting. And they have animal studies showing no adverse reactions in 86% of them. One of my favorites right now, with all the studies considered, is Texas cedarwood oil. So it has 100% kill rate of black-legged ticks, but that's on contact, right? It's safe to spray on humans and pets over 15 pounds. You do have to apply it more often, right? Of course, we know about DEET, Picardin, these things are very effective. And some of them you can, get a little more time out of them for protection. But if you want a natural alternative, you do need to spray this on more often. So that's the downside, every 1 to 2 hours for it to be effective. But if you do that, it is just as effective as DEET. So that's fantastic. So you can use this instead of DEET. Yeah, and a lot of people use it on their dogs as well. And now Nucotone again, back to this magical potion that I hope will be out there commercially available soon. So it repels ticks for 3 days. So from 1 to 2 hours to 3 days is pretty mind-blowing. So it's 100% repellents for 3 days of adult, both the black-legged and the Lone Star ticks, which is awesome. So hopefully it'll be coming out. You can check out the website, and I'm on there for notification for when it is out. That should make a difference in our lives. Okay, and in the meantime, so you're doing some things to prevent the bites, but then you come in from the outdoors and we want to do a tick check. And you really need to be very thorough. So, some people's tick checks are not too thorough. You know who you are. So step up your game a little bit. Think about places that ticks might hide. I see a lot of them in the belt area, behind the knees, under the bra line, and around the ear and scalp. So those are often where I see people getting tick bites. So I had somebody that was like between the toes. I mean, they can be anywhere, right? So especially they like to be where it's moist and dark and warm. So check those areas. And then in kids, a lot, for some reason, they end up coming in with them in the hair and the scalp. So go through the hair. If you have a family, get everybody lined up. Everybody does their tick checks when you come in, help each other out, look through each other's hair, look on the back, use a comb. Also your hands, right? So it's not just looking, but also feeling the contour of your body and knowing, what bumps you might have and what bumps you don't have and what might be a tick. All right. The other thing you can do, so if you come in from the outdoors, you're doing a tick check, you've got your clothes, right? There could be ticks on the clothes, so you can put them right in the dryer. Put it on high heat for 6 minutes, 6 for ticks. So make sure that if you want to do that, you don't put them in the washer first, because when they're in the washer, then they will be nice and moist, right? They'll live very happily through the wash, and then you need to dry them longer, at least 55 minutes. And then you might have some ticks in your washer, right? So if possible, skip the washer first, go right to the dryer, and then you could go back to the washer after that. But we want to kill those ticks because they don't like to be dried out. So that will desiccate them, that will kill them by drying them out. Okay, so hopefully we prevented a tick bite, but if you forgot to do any of that, then if you got a tick bite, what do we do? So let's talk about that. So here's our little it's starting to get engorged there, right? You can see that gray abdomen. This is our black-legged tick. It's been in there a little while. I do want to mention this. We don't have all day, unfortunately, because we could talk about this for many hours. But just to mention that there are two standards of care out there regarding what to do after a tick bite and for treatment, well, and diagnosis of Lyme and tick-borne disease. So IDSA, Infectious Diseases of Society of America, which also goes along with the CDC guidelines, is one standard of care, and the other is through ILADS, which is the International Lyme and Associated Diseases Society, of which I'm a member. So I've received amazing education through them, and they educate doctors and healthcare providers and have information as well for the public. So please, go to ilads.org to learn more about that. So we will be talking about these two standards of care. There's a lot of literature out there, like what I mentioned about the round form of Lyme and the biofilm. I mean, there's research studies in reputable journals about this information, and it's very important to know about that because of the way we treat. But unfortunately, for instance, that's not talked about regarding IDSA and the CDC guidelines. So I want to get that information out to people that you will run into these two standards of care if you got a tick bite or if you have symptoms after a tick bite, unfortunately. Okay, so let's talk about the 6 steps after a tick bite. So first, of course, I'm going to remove the tick bite as soon as possible, but save it. Get a bag, get something to put it in. Some people put a piece of tape around it, whatever you have to save it. You don't have to kill it, but just save it. So remove it and identify it if you can. It's nice to be able to identify. You can go to tickencounter.org is a great website that has some great pictures of the ticks to help you identify which one it is, because it just gives us good information about what pathogens it might be carrying or not. And then my favorite tool is the OTOM tick twister. So this you can use to remove the tick. It seems to be the best to quickly remove the tick and without agitating it. So things are talked about like burn the tick or put Vaseline on the tick and smother it. So these things are agitating it. It might release saliva into you, which is where the bacteria could be or the pathogen can be. So we don't want to agitate it. I've gone through tweezers, and it can be a nightmare trying to get these ticks out. So this is my favorite tool. Next, apply first aid. So you can use a tincture of andrographis. This is a plant that has anti-Lyme activity. You can put that right on the tick bite. We're also going to be talking about something called deer tick bite formula, which you could also, if you have, you can put that on the tick bite. If you don't have either of those, you can at least use an antiseptic like alcohol, right? Or you could use peroxide, something. But the idea is not to touch it and point at it and itch it, because this is an unfortunate image. But when you have a tick attached, it can release feces onto the skin. And in those feces can be the pathogens also. And if you start touching the area, you could drag the feces with the pathogens into the wound, which can give you another exposure. So, and then also people just tend to say it heals better, they don't itch, etc., when they apply andrographis or even an antiseptic to the bite, which is nice for healing. The other thing you can do for first aid is use homeopathics. So Ledum 30C, you would use 3 pellets under your tongue 3 times a day for 3 days right after the tick bite. So it's nice to have at home in case this happens. If you did get some swelling or heat or a rash around the bite, you can also add Apis, and you can take them both together. Now, of course, please know that these are not going to kill Lyme and be the be-all end-all treatment if you actually had any pathogens transmitted, right? But this is going to help, right away to have on hand to make a change in your body's immune system and way to respond to that bite. So it would be beneficial in that way. Of course, if you had that rash, while you can add Apis, you may need full Lyme treatment. So please seek medical attention for that. Okay, so you've saved your tick. So now you can test the tick. So you can find out what pathogens it's carrying. So I love Tick Report. They're out of Massachusetts. They have excellent testing. It's PCR testing. Technology is a great option as well. It takes 3 business days to get the results. So you fill it out online. Of course, you have to mail in the tick, and then you get an email back with the results.